What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again. We are listening. I think I've read or heard that phrase throughout the life cycle of Destiny a few hundred, if not 1,000 times by now. At this point, we're listening seems to be nothing more than a pedantic attempt to placate what's left of the player base. Hollow words and nothing more. And as we all know, words are like wind. I don't want to hear, "We're listening." Fuck that, and fuck you. I want to hear we're doing, and not in some vague, more to come, ethereal bullshit kind of way. I want a roadmap. I want bullet points, and under those bullet points, I want long, detailed explanations of what's going to change and why. We Are Listening has been the holding pattern at Bungie for the last 4 years. Only, at the end of Rise of Iron, Age of Triumph, did we actually get a game that came anywhere close to what Destiny should have been all along, and what we know Bungie can produce as a studio? Destiny 2 should have been the evolution of all that work. I mean, you are listening, right? You are taking our valued feedback, right? So, if that is something you are actively doing and engaging in, and you're not just lying to our faces to try to calm the community and placate them as you desperately try to figure out a way that you can salvage any good grace that the community might have left, if you are listening, then why wasn't Destiny 2 an evolution of Destiny 1? Why was it so regressive in every facet that it is mind-bogglingly unrepresentative of anything the community wanted with Destiny 2? But, you know what? I've always been a good sport. So, if you're listening, then you know we want Eververse gone. If you're listening, then you know we want interesting weapons. Static rolls was a great experiment. I mean, sure, it was a bad experiment. It didn't work, and I suspect the people who actually like static rolls are in a minority of the community. I mean, you've really only got to look at the difference between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 and how long they thrive to see what people like more. And that's because not only do people like to obsess over the chase for a god-rolled weapon, but for the sake of balance, this mystical magical thing that only ever actually happens in games when players are exactly the same, have exactly the same skills, and exactly the same loadouts, weapons, and kits. So, because of this balance, all the weapons in Destiny 2 are, by and large, boring. For example, all the hoops you have to jump through to get all of the forged weapons, and maybe 2 of them come anywhere close to being actually decent. And forget strike-specific loot without random rolls. I see people asking for strike-specific loot all the time, and I'm like, the only reason you want strike-specific loot is because it was cool in Destiny 1, and the only reason it was cool in Destiny 1 was because it was randomly rolled. I mean, think back to Devil's Dawn. It was a sniper rifle that you could get in Destiny 1, and you got it once, and it was kind of okay, and then you never quested for it again because it was statically rolled. When people think fondly of strike-specific loot, they think back to farming Grasp of Moloch. They think farming Imago loot. They think questing for that god roll. That's not what you'll get with Destiny 2. So what's the point? What's going to happen is exactly what happened with forged weapons. You'll have to jump through a bunch of hoops to maybe get a weapon that is probably going to be bad if the forged weapons are anything to go by. And yeah, that's going to be your strike-specific loot. Have fun. Just another weapon to throw in your vault. May be worth collecting, may not be worth collecting. You'll have your people that are like, yeah, you know what, I want to collect all the things in the game. And then they realize they only have 200 vault spaces because Bungie is listening and has been listening since Destiny 1. So much so that they knew that we needed more vault spaces. But, you know, hey, there is a difference between listening and doing. Now, to return to the point, static rolls place an impetus on the developer to create and cultivate fun and interesting weapons, wherein random rolls allows the players to discover what they want. It allows the player base to cultivate a meta around what's good, and lets players find many different pathways to find those weapons. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that RNG perks on top of RNG loot was a perfect system. I'm not a fucking liar. But there is a way around this. For example, in Destiny 1, we had weapon reforging. For a relatively cheap price, it allowed you to re-roll the perks on any given weapon. In Destiny 1, because this was, as I said, rather cheap, it saw the Crucible full of homogenized god-rolled weapons almost immediately. In Destiny 2, they've introduced masterwork weapons. One of the ways that you can stem the tide of the god roll, but alleviate the grind and disappointment when questing for a weapon, is to 1. Only allow masterwork weapons to be re-rolled, and 2. Have a high re-roll cost. Currently, to re-roll one stat on a masterwork weapon, it takes 3 masterwork cores. They can only be obtained from dismantling other masterwork weapons. And if you want to turn a weapon into a masterwork weapon that's not already a masterwork weapon, it's going to take 10 masterwork cores to do so. And right there, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, you have the groundwork to combine reforging from Destiny 1 and masterwork weapons from Destiny 2, and create a system that allows people to chase god rolls and also gives them multiple avenues at which to do so. Hell, you can even turn masterwork cores into a weekly reward vendors can give you for completing things like Crucible, Nightfall, Raid, Trials, etc, etc, etc. Further incentivizing these activities long past all the exotics have been collected and the max light has been reached. For you see, Bungie, it doesn't actually take a lot to get players to keep playing content. It doesn't take a lot to give players actual endgame content to do. I mean, look no further than the grind for the perfect Ios Luna. Look no further than the grind for the perfect Imago Loop, or the perfect Grasp of Moloch. If given the chance, players will create their own content. They'll figure out stuff that they want to do with the sandbox you've given them. That's why it's a sandbox. If you tell players that they can keep reforging weapons just as long as they have X number of masterwork cores, well then they'll do it. They'll hunt them down until they get the perfect weapons that they want. If you build it, they will come. That's, I mean, you know, not to butcher a quote, but if you build it, they will come. Figuratively and literally, probably, honestly. You. The only time that balance is of concern, which, given how loved laser tag Trials was and how much fun people are having with Mayhem, doesn't seem to be a terribly large concern of the community at this moment, is when you do stupid things like give a shotgun the highest impact and range in the game. It's a shotgun. What the fuck are you thinking? Simple tweaks to designing weapons, like not doing something stupid, will leave the game innately balanced, regardless of what random perks you allot weapons. Yes, people will always gravitate towards the best in class and best in slot weapon. That's how video games work. It's better to go ahead and embrace that than rail against it. Because once you embrace it, you can truly do some very interesting things. You can gasp, shock, balance around it. Galahorn, for example, was one of the most notoriously hard to balance weapons in Destiny 1. Simply put, it melted anything and everything you put in front of it. And it wasn't guaranteed that everybody had it, so it was hard to balance around. By making it a quest exotic, you could guarantee that everybody had it. And if they didn't have it, well, that was their fault, not yours. Same thing could be said for Sleeper Simulant, Touch of Malice, Black Spindle, Raise Lighter, Dark Drinker, pretty much any really good power weapon exotic by the end of year 3. If you're seeing a reoccurring pattern here, it's that you can create really cool, really powerful exotics and put them behind a fairly hard to do quest line, and then design even harder endgame content around people having these weapons. By and large, the same applies for the meta of PvP. For example, most people still pretty much use Mida. There's a lot of Mida usage still in Destiny 2, with Uriel's Gift probably actually being the most used weapon, but damn if you don't see a lot of Mida still. Why is that? Well, it's because it's a great gun with a definitive way to acquire it. All of that said, I do think that Bungie misunderstands the difference between balance and bullshit. Snipers as a secondary or primary weapon? Okay, nobody has a problem with that. Snipers with 100% aim assist and bullet magnetism? Not okay. A hand cannon with a high time to kill, like The Last Word, that rewarded people for hip firing. Okay. A hand cannon with a high time to kill that was glitched and rewarded the damage bonus regardless of mode of fire? Not okay. A high damage 2 to 3 shot hand cannon? Okay. A high damage 2 to 3 shot hand cannon that will still kill you with damage over time once you have won or left the gunfight you were in? Not okay. A solid shotgun that can kill a player in one hit? Okay. A sniper rifle disguised as a shotgun that can kill people in one shot half the map away? Not okay. Powerful abilities that can and will kill a player in one hit? Okay. Powerful abilities like fusion grenades that will track down a player with a fair amount of magnetism to them? Not okay. There is a huge difference between powerful and bullshit. People don't mind powerful. People like powerful. People like feeling powerful. People don't like bullshit. People don't like dying to bullshit. And oftentimes, people don't like killing other people with bullshit. I don't know how many times I was playing Destiny 1 or Destiny 2 or hell, any video game, and I go, you know what? No, that shouldn't have killed him. And then I actually feel bad that it did. And I'm sure many people have had this experience as well, because we know that we wouldn't want to be on the other end of that. Look at weapons like Hawkmoon and Iasaluna. No one really complained about getting two-tapped by them. In fact, Hawkmoon and Iasaluna are two of the most revered weapons in Destiny history. Yet, everybody universally despises the two-tap Thorn. Why is that? Because when you get two-tapped by a Hawkmoon, there's this sense of, okay, you know what? They got lucky, they got me, that's fair. When you get two-tapped by Thorn, more often than not, you won your gunfight and you were killed by DOT, and that feels cheap. People do not like getting cheated, and it's not all that hard to distinguish between cheap and powerful, as I've just laid out. If you're listening, Bungie, then you know we want good stories. I don't know what the fuck you think your writing team is coming up with as of late, but it is by no definition good. Nier Automata was good. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was good. Dragon Age Origins was good. Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, with the exception of the last 5 minutes of Mass Effect 3, was good. Titanfall 2 was good. Uncharted 2, 3, and 4 was good. Persona 5 was good. Stella Glow, a 3DS game none of you motherfuckers have ever heard of or played, was good. Final Fantasy VI was good. I could honestly go on and on and on and on and on about all the games I think are good. Point being, Destiny 1, Destiny 2, and Destiny 2 The Curse of Osiris was not a good story. The lore, the backstory to the entire universe is fucking amazing. And it has always been my hope that once the game got all the systems and balance down, all the aspects of actually playing the game were solidified, that we would finally get a story worth this universe. Because if we got a game half as interesting as the Book of Sorrows, or the Tale of Dredge and Yor, or any of the other legendary stories that are in the Grimoire, then holy fucking shit, Batman, we would have a fucking game. People who play Warhammer know this pain all too well. You get something like Age of Sigmar, or 40k gets a bad codex, and, well, the game is fucked. But you still love the lore, and you still love the universe. I don't play Destiny 2 all that often, but I do go back and play the shit out of Destiny 1. And I was ecstatic when I opened up the concept art book for Destiny 2 that my wife got me for Christmas. Like I said, I love the universe, I love the lore, but there is an absurd amount of incompetency at play when it comes to integrating that lore, that story, with the game. But again, moving forward, Bungie, if you are listening, you know that we want separate PvP playlists. This one is self-explanatory. Bungie, if you are listening, you'll know that we want a comprehensive endgame worth playing. I did the raid lair a couple of times when it first came out, and I thought, you know what? This final boss fight is actually really cool. But there's no longevity here. There's no loot to chase. There's nothing. And I have to get 6 people together to play what's equivalent to a glorified strike. And then when I'm done, if I want to do anything else, I have to boot 2 to 3 of them to play multiplayer or run strikes. I mean, come on. Really? Was this actually worth making a 6-man raid? I mean, really? Could have had a strike on the Leviathan. That would have been kind of cool. That's what this could have been. A really cool, in-depth, long-ass strike. But, you know, hey, whatever. Moving forward. To the untrained eye and or ear, this would seem like a rather comprehensive list. But I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the changes and overhauls Destiny 2 needs. You know what? I'm going to throw this out there. It's a crazy idea. If you could, I don't know, get the game to, say, anywhere in the neighborhood of Destiny 1 Year 3, that would be a really, really great start. I know that would require an admission of wrongdoing on your part, Bungie. I know that would require walking back damn near every change you've made to the franchise. But, Bungie, if you are listening, if you are willing to do more than just listen and gather feedback, if you're willing to change the game and give the player base what they want, there you have it. There is a starting point. But like always, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.